As I lay here, two things go on in my mind: reflecting on dreams and movies. Now, as for reflecting on dreams, you can dream about a bunch of different things that you like to be. For example, going around New York City with your buddies, driving in the Ecto 1, drinking an Ecto Cola, and collecting a bunch of ghosts to rid the world of evil. That sounds like a promising dream that any kid would like to have. I mean, it's very inspiring, influential, and adventurous. But when you watch a movie, on the other hand, I mean, especially in the world of the 1980s, creativity was just going off the walls, especially when it comes to, like, movies that are just fun and exciting. Now, these two things come together. Now, for me, laying here, this particular film I decided to watch and just bask in all of its glory, because this movie itself is something that is really held dear to my heart, because it was one of the films that, one of the many upon very first films that I saw as a young man, just enjoying and seeing the world of what the 1980s culture, the entertainment, pop styles, all that stuff that was going on. And the fact that comedy was upon us in just many different forms, and the fact that you had such really good names in this particular movie stands alone for itself. I decided to go on ahead and talk about Ghostbusters. What I've learned is that when there is something strange in your neighborhood, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters? Life insurance? Geico? The Carfax? Pillsbury Doughboy? Your next door neighbor? Prostitute? Somebody? The Godfather? I don't know. But mostly, I think out of all those names I mentioned, I think it's best you call it Ghostbusters, because Venkman, Stantz, Zedmore, and Spengler, they will be the ones to take care of your problem when you're having issues with ghosts or fucking monsters or just anything in general. Now, Ghostbusters is one of those movies where, when I was young, all those years ago, when I was still wearing those fucking diapers, wearing those Depends, because at this point I do depend on Depends. I've seen a lot of movies now. A lot of kids would watch cartoons or would watch something that was very, very, kids related. But for me though, when I started watching movies from the 1980s, my whole entire world expanded. But this particular movie is one of the very first, if not one of the beginning movies that I witnessed that just opened my world of cinema. I can say a bunch of films that really opened and changed my whole entire landscape and viewpoints of how I look at film, how I watch it, how I study it, how I witness it, and expanding my own knowledge within certain genres and decades. But this instinct, with this particular movie, this really showcased a lot more of an entertainment element, a lot more of a creative factor, comedic value, and not only that, but also the camera work, effects, and the entire presentation of something that was just very, very, you can say, very, I wouldn't say cheesy, but more along the lines of a film that was just very, very fun. But anyways, Ghostbusters is one of those films that really has a special place in my heart, because it's one of those movies when you see it as a kid, you want to actually consider yourself being a Ghostbuster yourself, having the fucking proton pack or the gizmo, the PKE meter, the ghost traps, or your own version of the Ecto 1, or aka the Ectomobile. But then again, you would go along and get with your friends and pretending to fight against criminals like Slimer and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, just to name two of the biggest ones out of how many villains that you would later encounter in Ghostbusters, the second movie, and within the cartoon animated series. We all know that the video game was absolutely fucking terrible. As for the Ghostbusters 2016, we will never talk about that movie ever again. But then the other Ghostbuster movies that came out that I absolutely adored in 2019 was just incredible. But this is the Ghostbusters movie that started it off. This movie is where not only your entire world and imagination of just pure innocence in terms of watching it as a child, but also seeing this as an adult, really showcase exactly that you can get together with your friends and witness a film like this. Just not only having a nice, fun popcorn time of getting with your buddies and pretending to be Ghostbusters yourself, but also seeing that all these guys were really close friends. All were all of them were in college. They were basically losing their roles in New York City at this university. They ended up coming across a teleporter that unleashes a lot of evil. And let's just say that evil ends up manifesting itself in New York City. So they now form the Ghostbusters, having destroyed all the wreck and filth that is going on within New York City. I love how a lot of movies in 1984, just the 80s in general, a lot of them would take place in either one or two states, New York or California. But mostly it's in New York, because New York, why not? It's a good territory to take place for your movie. So as we continue on, I mean, Escape from New York is another one. Lost. I'm just in a New York state of mind. But the story itself is very, very straightforward. And then you got yourself your cast of characters. Now, all these guys are very close friends. They've known each other very well, especially when you see Bill Murray and Harold Ramis working together in a movie. It was going to be something pretty fun and exciting. Now, mostly funny. There's those two. When these two actors were together in movies, they knew their chemistry. They knew how to work together, and they knew how to make some really good entertainment. So this is another one of those movies where the entertainment factor was there and high, and it was great stuff. Then you got Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson joining along the fray. So you got yourself a really good cast. Sigourney Weaver was also in the movie. Rick Moranis was in it as well. I mean, his role was very small, but he was funny in the film. So watching this movie, how they were able to really formate and create the Ghostbusters is fantastic. It was a step-by-step process with getting the gears and gimmicks that they needed to create the create the proper equipment to not only capture the ghost, but also explaining how all of their inventions work. And the thing is that each personality, when you see Venkman, Stantz, Zedmore, and Spengler all together, you got all their different personalities blending in together as one particular unit. I love how they all interact and just their own reactions to all the foes that they come across is really, really good stuff. Seeing Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, the fat fuck that he is, just taking over New York City, not even squishing anything, but that giant ass face, that giant ass smiley fucking grin he's got on his face. It's amazing how they reacted to that. But watch this movie, seeing how they're going around, capturing all the ghosts, facing all the foes that they have. Really, really good stuff. Yes, it's true. This man has no dick. See, dialogue like that, especially when it comes to one-liners, which this film had a lot of, that is funny. I loved how this movie, whenever I watched it, there would be some dialogue, like I said, one-liners that would really take me off the rail and just capture me off guard and just make me laugh my ass off. God damn. Like, this old movie just had the imagination. Like, it was all there. Ivan Reitman created this film, and what he gave, bringing his imagination into this film, not only getting the writers and producers who helped create this movie for what it is today, it's phenomenal. I mean, this movie created an entire trend, a generation of fucking Ghostbusters, merchandise, video games. We will not talk about the NES one, but games and an animated series, more movies later on. But then again, when I watch this film, this movie just really represents, at least right now, to always respect your pals. You can get together, have an idea if one thing is failing, and you got to create a new concept in order to bring yourselves back to the general public of creating that success. And obviously, these guys had a vision. They were able to take a concept that they thought of after them experiencing the first ever paranormal encounter in the fucking library and what was going on, learning and studying about all these ghosts and phantoms and foes, and learning about all the different realms of paranormal activity. Not just that, but a little bit of sci-fi as well, if so. I mean, if you believe in aliens or any particular creatures of the night. But this movie itself, these guys were fucking great. I mean, and all of them are names. I mean, all of them were on SNL, Saturday Night Live, during the earlier days. And the fact that all these guys were able to become top movie stars later on is showcased that they had a lot to bring to the big picture. Now, Dan Aykroyd, I mean, Stantz was, for me, my personal favorite. Him and Spengler. I mean, I've always liked Stantz and Spengler, but then again, I always thought that, I mean, sure, Venkman, he was the leader, and Spengler was his right-hand man, and then you had Zed Moore and fucking Stantz. I mean, they were there doing their parts and doing their contributions. I mean, all of them had their own part, and you can, when you watch this flick, you can probably form your own particular thoughts and takes about who was like the leader, who was the heart, soul, brains, power, etc. But for me, Spengler was, to me, the heart. He was the heart to me of the Ghostbusters. Venkman obviously was the leader. Stantz, he was the guy who was like, you know, the builder, creating, and Zed Moore, well, he was there being comedic relief and just doing his part. But like I said, you can be the own judge of how you see all these guys in your own way. But like I said, all four of their personalities is phenomenal. Top four names in this movie that you would watch in any comedy, at least during the early 80s, and understand the type of humor that was given. But again, as usual with a film like this, I've already given it the 5 stars many, many years ago, and it still stays the same to this very day, because this movie just has a very big, close connection to my heart within the whole entire personalities, the creativity, the imagination, the fact that there was a goal that 4 guys had and wanted to create, and the imagination was there, and they were able to become a sensation and create a generation of Ghostbusters later on. Seeing all the props and seeing the car itself, just seeing this film unfold, and the fact that everything has a reason, especially all the enemies that they encounter, really, really good stuff. Really, really good stuff and entertaining. So, folks, that's my little talk on Ghostbusters, because this film is a big passion of mine. I adore this film so goddamn much. And I think I'm going to watch it again because I just absolutely love it. And I still, to this very day, I would like to be a Ghostbuster myself. So with that being said, folks, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters.